So is it 100% accurate to say that the federal government tampered with evidence, that it potentially planted this evidence?
Well, going back to your point, Benny, and I think that this is important. There were boxes that were transported to Mar-a-Lago after Donald Trump left office. Then, to your point, the boxes that were kept at the GSA, General Services Administration, that is the agency that handles presidential transitions. So they had upwards of 100 boxes stored at a Virginia facility. And then after the 6 month period, transition period was over, they told Donald Trump's team, we have to get these boxes out of here. So then in September of 2021, they transported 2 pallets worth of boxes to Mar-a-Lago that were then loaded into the storage room or storage rooms at Mar-a-Lago. Now, the problem is the chain of custody, right? So, if the boxes that, first of all, they sent to NARA voluntarily contained classified markings, if they came from the GSA, how is Donald Trump responsible for that? And more egregiously, if these were some of the boxes that the FBI seized during the raid in August of 2022 that were housed by the GSA, that the GSA oversaw and managed until they were transported, then how is Donald Trump willfully retaining classified or national defense information when these boxes were held at a government facility, transported, no evidence that they were even opened or Donald Trump ever looked at them, which he probably didn't? So, how can he then be charged with espionage for willfully retaining national defense information from boxes that were not even in his custody for at least 7 months? So, I think that's going to be another wrinkle to this whole scandal.
Cash Patel was on our program yesterday, and Cash Patel was, of course, Donald Trump's emissary with NARA, right? So he knows it better than almost anyone. And Cash says no, Jack Smith needs to be arrested for this. Like based on your reporting and based on what we've seen out of the court, like it's Jack Smith who should probably be facing criminal trial. Do you agree with that?
Well, I think at some point he definitely should be investigated and charged, at the very least, prosecutorial abuse and selective vindictive prosecution. So should Jay Bratt. Keep in mind, Jay Bratt, who is the top DOJ official, led the investigation. We now know that he had meetings in the White House in 2021 with the associate of then Chief of Staff Ron Klain, probably Ron Klain himself. Why is the head of DOJ's counter espionage unit meeting in the White House before any of this? The case really took off after Trump turned over those boxes, I'm sure that Cash talked about in January of 2022. Jay Brad has already been accused of prosecutorial abuse for threatening Walt Nauta, Trump's co-defendant, his attorney, with jeopardizing or pulling a judicial nomination pending in Washington, D.C. for the Superior Court if he did not successfully get Walt Nauta, one of Trump's closest personal aides, to flip on Trump and become a government witness. These people, when Donald Trump calls them thugs, he's actually probably being too kind.
Jim Jordan, last night, saying that Jack Smith is straight up tampering with evidence, mishandling documents. Here's Jim Jordan.
Yeah, the order of the documents seized was changed. That one sentence says it all. Most people would call that tampering with evidence. The physical documents didn't match up with the scanned documents. And here's the irony, Sean. This is Jack Smith mishandling the very documents that he's charging President Trump with mishandling. Go figure. I mean, that to me is the ultimate irony here. Not to mention, of course, the double standard. We had Robert Hur 6 weeks ago in front of our committee. Robert Hur said Joe Biden met the elements of the crime. He knowingly kept, knowingly disclosed classified information. But he wasn't charged because he says he was a forgetful old man. And we also established motive. Robert Hur said on page 231 of his report, Joe Biden had strong motivations for ignoring classified procedures because he was writing a book for which he got paid $8 million. So he had an $8 million motive. He met the elements, but he doesn't get charged. President Trump does. And then Jack Smith mishandles the very documents. You can't make this stuff up.
Well, Jim Jordan, you are in charge of the judiciary. Why don't you defund Jack Smith? Why don't you investigate Jack Smith? Jim Jordan could call Jack Smith into Congress tomorrow. He could subpoena Jack Smith right now. Jim Jordan, subpoena Jack Smith. Do it. Ask him these questions. And on Fox News, just bring him into Congress, right? John Ratcliffe, former member of Congress, was the director of national intelligence for Donald Trump. Very smart man, obviously was able to be Senate approved. Director of national intelligence. This guy is like in charge of the CIA, the FBI. He's in charge of the NSA, of all of the intelligence arms of the federal government. John Ratcliffe, of all people, should know what is a staged crime scene. And he says, this is a staged crime scene. Watch.
In terms of the classified documents case, I remember the infamous picture that the FBI took of all those classified documents that they said that they took from Mar-a-Lago. Specifically, tell me about what you're saying, that what evidence was tampered with. And did the FBI tamper with this?
Yeah, so that famous photograph, what we have now learned, and the government has had, Jack Smith and his prosecutors have had to admit, is that was staged. And those top secret classified sheets that all the public saw and said, oh my God, look at those top secret documents, those were placed there by the FBI. And what Jack Smith admitted in court this week was that, in his words, they mishandled the classified documents and misrepresented those to the court. Maria, that's a kind way of saying we tampered with the evidence and then we lied to the court about it. And they got caught when President Trump's lawyers and the other co-defendants raised this issue and said, look, the documents here don't match up. The documents that were presented to us don't match the digitally scanned records of when they were taken from Mar-a-Lago. And Jack Smith, not only did they tamper with that and lie to the court about it, but he's now admitted to the court that he doesn't know how that happened. He's only offered a number of possible explanations for how that could have happened.
How could it have happened? Well, it's obvious how this all happens. This happens because you're trying to lie to the American people. This happens because of the Bob McDonnell case. We keep coming back to it. I know it happened a long time ago, but it's really instructive here. The Bob McDonnell case, maybe you're from Virginia. Maybe you remember Bob McDonnell. Bob McDonnell was a Virginia governor. He was really popular. He was really powerful. He had a lot of rich friends, and he was ready to run for president against Barack Obama in 2012. Jack Smith, of all people, were the ones who directly went after Bob McDonnell in a corruption case. They were able to get charged. They were able to impanel a grand jury. They were able to go after him. And they were reversed 9-0 at the Supreme Court. Why? Because they weren't able to establish, Jack Smith was never able to establish what an official act is. It's the exact same thing. Presidential immunity. It's the same play. It's the same thing. It's happening again. And what was the goal? The goal was never, I think, to put Bob McDonnell in prison for the rest of his life. I think they would have been okay with that, but they knew they were never going to get that. The goal was to destroy Bob McDonnell's political career so he wasn't a threat to their man, Barack Obama. This is something that happened while Donald Trump was doing weddings with Hillary Clinton. Like, this was happening before Donald Trump. Donald Trump was just a sparkle in the eye, right? They have already used the same playbook. John Ratcliffe, the director of national intelligence, saying this case will be dismissed. Wow. I mean, he went farther than even Julie Kelly went. Ratcliffe saying, nope, they're going to throw it out. Watch.
He has a lead prosecutor in this case, Jay Bratt, who met with White House counsel and a representative of the National Archives several times in the weeks before Jack Smith was even appointed.
Wow.
Maria, this reeks of crossfire hurricane when the Obama-Biden administration fabricated evidence before the FISA court, lied to the court about it to pursue Donald Trump, and now we're seeing it again in this classified documents case. The judge could dismiss this case at any point in time, Maria. I think the only reason that she hasn't is she wants to document this publicly so that the public can see just how this case is being prosecuted, how unfairly Donald Trump has been persecuted in this matter by Joe Biden's Department of Justice.